Good evening, everyone. It is 6 p.m. and I would like to call this meeting to order. If you would please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Roll call, please, Connie.
Chris Makowski.
Here.
Terry Lautner.
Here.
Kyle Travis.
Here.
Jeff Shaw.
Here.
Dave Darga.
Here.
Jordan Gallagher.
Here.
Connie Preston here.
Thank you. Item 4, declaration of conflict of interest. If there's any trustee that has any conflict on any agenda item or perceived conflict, please declare that at this time. Okay. Seeing none, I would like to move on to item 5, public comment. So the rules of public comment, you have 3 minutes to give public comment. If you would direct those comments directly to the board, we would appreciate it, not to anybody else in the room. And if you don't mind giving us your name and address, we appreciate that. So it is 6:01, and I'd like to open public comment. Any public comment at this time?
Hi, hello everyone. I'm Jody Mackey. I live at 1058 Washington Street in Traverse City, but I'm a marina slip holder on ADOC. And here I go. Last month I was here and I spoke about the lack of marina communication, and I wanted to just report out that there's been some really nice attempts made to remedy that. Mr. Shaw coming over to meet with us, we appreciate that. Harbor Master Moon's been sending some emails, so that's really great, and I just wanted to say that we appreciate that. I do feel the overall tone of the marina staff towards slip holders remains pretty negative and needs some major improvement. But we are really happy to have Pete back in good health, and I hope that he's going to make it a priority to work with his staff on culture and climate at the marina. At your last meeting that I listened to and was very interested in all you guys have on your plates, I appreciated listening to the discussion and idea sharing regarding the water issues affecting 150 or so township residents. Doing the hard work versus kicking the can down the road is the harder option, but it shows all of you have a commitment to do your elected job, which is very admirable. I would ask that you put that same amount of care and concern into the marina community, which has approximately 180 slip holders and requires, in my view, far less of an action plan to resolve. My suggestion would be to survey the current marina slip holders about their priorities and wishes versus trying to enact a plan created over 17 years ago that it is clear the marina, township, and slip holders can't afford. I would suggest a survey that can be reviewed and tweaked by this board. There's a lot of different quality surveys. I've shared some with Mr. Shaw that other marinas have issued over the years. You just would need to tweak it and send it out. It would not be hard to get some new data on what the priorities for the current marina membership is looking for. And as you can see from a lot of the folks sitting here, the unknown, a lot of these folks are here from the marina, the unknown is creating anxiety for boaters. We're hearing things, but we're not, getting a lot of information. And if you read the financial report, 30 to 50% rate hikes and things like that create stress. And we, again, want some transparency, some communication, and a timeline, something that's going to happen before we get this packet in January that says, wallop, here you go, here's your new rates, or see ya. So we just want to be involved, at least with knowing, some communication. So I know you guys have a lot on your plates, but I would ask that you continue to share out information as it's available, consider getting more data from us, and I'm curious to hear what the engineers have to share tonight about some cost savings. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Eric Curran, 10212 East Cherry Bend Road, right around the corner. I've been a slip holder at Elmwood Marina, as I mentioned on the March 2nd special meeting that you had. I was the only member of the public that showed up for that to listen to the, quote, professional from downstate who got paid almost $20,000 to come up with this magic solution of charging whatever the market will bear. This is a township marina for township people, not for people moving up from downstate to have their condo on the water. my thought is you should be serving the township people first, not raising the rates so much that nobody that's worked in this township can even afford it. That's the way I see it going. The consultant from downstate I disagree with entirely, as I mentioned at the last meeting. I've got a picture of my boat at the coal pile marina. Remember that big pile of coal? People had a place to keep their boat at least back then. Now this town has grown so much, and all you want to do is raise the rates instead of addressing the problem. You could actually make a huge marina here and bring in billions of dollars if you wanted to. Traverse City would support it, but everybody says, no, we'd have to go through this, we'd have to go through that. No, we'll just milk the people that are here now. I am totally against raising the rates to pay for a, quote, clubhouse, which has been promised since the late 90s. Every year, it's a year or two down the road, a year or two down the road. I've been paying for this clubhouse since the 90s. We don't have it yet. And I don't care. I don't want it. I don't want to spend $6 million for a clubhouse. I think it's ridiculous that the marina is being run the way it is now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Sue Jones, 12684 South Cedar Lane. As most of you know, I'm one of the residents in a Graylickville neighborhood who spent almost 3 years opposing the zoning ordinance amendment that allows short-term rentals in all districts in Elmwood Township. Now that they're legal, I have 2 licensed STRs in my 20-home neighborhood, one next door and one directly across the street. They've diminished my enjoyment of living in a neighborhood. Instead of a close-knit feeling of community, day in and day out, I see so many strangers coming and going from these mini motels, oblivious to the neighborhood, its rhythm, and its residents. My complaints to date have been parking, excess number of guests, and lighting issues, and I have also provided information to the zoning administrator on a number of unlicensed STRs that have been operating in the township. The wait list for licenses has grown to 8, including one property in a Graylickville neighborhood. My immediate concern is there will be pressure to increase the current cap of 93. A motion passed 5-2 over a year ago asking the Planning Commission to remove STRs from the Graylickville neighborhoods using an overlay district or amendment to the zoning districts. After a few months and some confusion, the board decided to hold off until there was a new map of the STR locations. Nothing's happened since. I'm interested once again in asking for the board's commitment to protecting our Graylickville neighborhoods from further spread of short-term rentals. A recent Housing North survey study reveals that Leelanau County has an overall housing gap of over 2,000 units. Our subdivisions are vulnerable to STR investors. On the one hand, we have some of the more modestly priced homes that fulfill a housing need for those who want to live here year-round. Yet they are also an attractive investment opportunity for those in the short-term rental market. Many families, workers, seniors, etc., simply can't afford to compete with cash-buying investors for the few properties that do come on the market. On behalf of 265 residents who signed a petition to keep short-term rentals out of our neighborhoods, I request that you take another look at this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment at this time? Okay. 6:09, I'd like to close public comment. Moving on to item 6, consent calendar. The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items to be together to be dealt with in one board motion without discussion. Any member of the public, board, or staff may ask that any item of the consent calendar be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. This evening, we have department reports, treasurer, planning, zoning, fire, harbor master, post audit invoices dated 7/15/23 through 7/31/23, and we have minutes from our 7/10/23 meeting. Would anyone in the public like to have anything removed and placed elsewhere? Any board members? Or any staff? Okay, seeing none, I'd look for a motion.
Can we just note that there was no actual written fire report?
Thank you.
And I make a motion to approve the consent calendar as amended.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item 7, agenda approval. We would like to add under reports, item F, Ray Kendra Marina Phase 3 information. An update on some numbers. And I believe Ken may be involved in that a little bit too, so. Any other changes to the agenda, additions, subtractions? Okay. Look for a motion.
I make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of item F.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Moving on to reports. You have your supervisor's remarks in front of you. Any questions for me on that? There's a couple of agenda items that I commented on, but we'll get to those. Okay. Trustee remarks. Any remarks from any trustees this evening? Yeah, Terry?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Supervisor Shaw for putting a bug in Detroit Edison's ear to supply gas out in the rural parts of the township a little bit farther. And I think without that kicking the pants, I don't think they'd be out there. So thanks
Yep.
Supervisor Shaw for
Absolutely.
doing that. Gives the member, or the residents out there different options for heating their homes and such.
Appreciate it.
Save some money, maybe.
Yeah. Apparently, I don't have a big enough boot to kick consumers, though, because they won't bury the lines on M22, so I need a bigger boot.
Well,
Any other remarks? Okay. Engineers report. Ken, do you have anything for us before we go to agenda items, or?
It's on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Other officer remarks? We don't have Rookie here. Chief, do you want to do your fire report now?
Just really quick, July was pretty typical. Though we were down about 16% from last year, we had about 52 calls that we responded to. One structure fire, one woods fire, car accident. We had 38 medical calls that we attended to. We did have one walk-off, lost person that we were involved with over here. The person was found safe. That was good stuff. Several weather-type related incidents with lines down, utility lines, power lines, and we had one gas leak that we attended to. Other than that, we had 4 mutual aid calls, 3 of which we got canceled off of, but we're able to put units en route, and we also had 4 overlapping calls, which we were able to attend to with our current staffing. So the big engine out back is still for sale. Continue to have conversations with different used fire truck companies and other options for getting rid of it. Had one bite, but the gentleman seemed to think that it was only worth $8,000, so it didn't go very far. We had a Jason Newfer, who was one of our firefighters, had left the department. We filled his full-time slot with Andrew Baker after some interviews. We had 4 applicants, 3 from within, and Andrew came out ahead, and he got the position. So he moved from part-time basically to full-time. handful of trainings, mostly around driver's training, ATV and trailer safety operations, and some boat operations, and really the air show and cherry festival and everything went out and fireworks went on without a hitch. So, any questions or anything for me?
Anything for the chief?
All right.
Thanks, chief.
You're welcome.
Pete? You all set? I know you gave us a written report, so. Okay. Communications from the clerk.
I would just add that we had public comments submitted by two other people. The written comments were added to your or they were on the table for you.
Yep.
Jeff Dungan and Rosemary Hagan regarding Timberley Water.
Mm-hmm.
Also, our planner, zoning administrator, put together a report on how people can sign up for the Timberley or Grelikville water alerts if there's an issue. So there's a step-by-step for the board to know, but if anyone else is, it was to help the board see that you could do that. Anyone can use that. All right, and that's it.
And just to follow up to that, so there was a power failure out at Timberley that caused the water system to go down for, well, a short time, but then they had to boil water for 36 hours as a precautionary issue. So it had nothing to do with the actual tanks and all that kind of stuff out at Timberley. It was actually electrical, a power issue. So, yeah, that's what that was about. And I also wanted to say, our harbor master, you know, he put in his report about me and some, you know, picking up some kids on my boat, but he was out at the same time rescuing somebody else. So it's good that we actually have that boat for him. So, item F, Ray Kendra. Ray, you want to come on up?
Sure. Hello, my name is Ray Kendra, Environment Architects. My office is actually just around the corner here in the township. So I'm going to pass out some drawings here that we put together after our meeting. Meg, you have electronic copies, Jeff?
Okay, thank you.
So we had a meeting several weeks back that we were just trying to look at ways to possibly reduce the cost of the proposed Boaters Pavilion. These drawings are in response to that. What we were also trying to do is we're working on the Traverse City Senior Center. So we just got our bids back, and I wanted to wait and see what the numbers were that came back on that so we could kind of apply that in the context of what we're doing here with real-time numbers. So that's what I did. The second page kind of gives you a summary of the square footage of what we had originally proposed and then what we kind of are looking at as a reduced plan, if you will. So you can see the cost. So essentially what we did, and point to this drawing here to kind of help orient you. So the plan on the left.
Is there a spot you think we can put that so these guys can see too, Ray?
Sure.
Sorry to,
I guess
yeah.
try to talk and, so the plan on the left is what we had proposed back in 2020, basically. So this project started in 2020. We've made some minor revisions along the way, 2021. And so here we are. We're about to get to a point where we want to get close to being able to put this thing out for bids. And as I've encouraged the board in the past, we need to have funding in place when we bid a project these days because people will not hold their bids open for greater than essentially 60 days because there's such a fluctuation with costs. It was settling down. All of a sudden, we have fires in Canada, we have fires in Hawaii. Now the price of wood, whether it's accurate or not, people will take any natural disaster to basically be able to change the dynamic of the cost of building materials. So that's why we always really try to wait till the very end to kind of dial everything in and then bid it. So we didn't draw the drawings purposefully in 2020 and have it sit in the drawer, not taking into factors what's happening in our world. So that's kind of why we've done what we have done. But in any case, the plan on the left is the existing plan that was put out there and what we've been working for. So about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had a meeting And the idea was, what can we do to take some dollars out of this thing? So what we essentially did is we kept this portion of the building generally intact. We didn't change the toilet facilities. We actually, to make things work with roof lines, ended up enlarging the day room by just a couple feet. And that was just to make things work with the spacing of the shower rooms. We did remove 2 of the shower rooms, so we had 8 before, now we have 6, is what we're seeing in this current plan. We had a covered pavilion on both sides in the original plan. We've now taken the one covered pavilion off. Doesn't mean that it can't be at ground, picnic area or whatever else. And we did keep a covered entry, which would be oriented on the west side, is that right? So we were keeping a little bit reduced covered pavilion over here, and then we have a covered area here. We kept the cleaning station in both locations, so we didn't take that out. So we still maintain, we think, a lot of the same functions that we had. I think the biggest thing that we took out is really a second covered pavilion. So that's kind of the primary change that happened, and then removing a couple plumbing fixtures. There was also a mechanical space in a storage room that was allocated as a potential future office. That was removed as well. So those were the primary things that have changed in the plan. Again, square footage wise, we are looking at a reduction of about 25% in square footage. And then cost wise, using those numbers that I had from the senior center, and again, until we bid it, these numbers are really just a really good estimate, but we need to bid it to get the real numbers. But based on the numbers that I received for the senior center, the original design priced in at about $2.3 million per our estimate, and this revised one is about 1.75. So it was a reduction of about $560,000, which is pretty accurate for 25% of the square footage. The cost went down by about 25% as well. So it gives you an idea of kind of what the breakdown, and on that cost spreadsheet, you'll see there's an original column, and then there was a cost alternate column. So I kind of put them side by side just to kind of compare those through. And the company that actually was the contractor for the Harbor Master building was the successful contractor for the senior center, for what it's worth. So just kind of local contractor numbers that we're kind of trying to use as much as we can.
So one of the things that I wasn't aware of, and maybe I should have been, that original cost, the total cost was around $5 million?
I'm dealing
half of
strictly
it
with
was
building.
Yeah, so your part was 2-point-something million, but the dirt work, if you want to call it that, was about half of the cost. So that was over $2 million for the actual dirt work. So I don't know how much of that we can get rid of.
So the opportunities with the site work.
Site work, that's better word.
Yeah, if you reduce parking, saves money, but we're very tight on parking as it is there. I don't think we want to reduce the parking lot spaces.
Right.
One of the things that added cost was we're extending the site upward in elevation and adding onto the seawall to get it above the recent high waters we had 2 years ago.
And actually, that was FEMA
Right.
on April 19th, changed the high water designation. So we have to, now that that happened, we have to respond to that, and that may affect some of what Ken's
We have to
talking
go
about.
about a foot higher, right? Isn't that what we figured?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. So some of the opportunities for cost savings is we can reduce concrete. There's a lot of concrete on the waterfront portion of the site. The boardwalk through there, the very edge of the water has a lot of concrete. We can certainly reduce some of that and have some significant savings. If you delay purchase of some site amenities, benches, things like that, so you're not paying a contractor and a contractor's markup for those, that certainly saves money. Just a rough estimate, my guess would be $200,000 to $300,000 could come off just with some of those savings. Some of those would be deferred. You're still going to want benches out there, but perhaps not through a contractor doing the whole site work.
Okay.
And one of the things that I suggested too, which is what we did at the senior center, is we had 2 bids. We had one for site work, one for building. Because both of these projects are pretty equal or close to it in value, maybe the site work's a little bit higher. to avoid having contractor markup again on something where it's just a pass-through item, we had a building number and we had a site work number. I think that would be appropriate for this project as well, where you'd have a contract with a site contractor, contract with a building contractor, and then you pick one or the other to say that contractor is then responsible for coordinating the other contractor's work. And I think it's gonna work out really well for that project, and it could save, again, several $100,000 of markup, not having to run it through somebody's bonding, somebody's markup, and so forth, so.
Okay.
I would suggest that would be a good approach that we would want to explore as we move further into it, so.
Okay. So, we didn't get these numbers till real late, so that's why this isn't an action item tonight. I just wanted them to come give us a heads up as to where we're at on it, give us numbers, and then at our next meeting, I think it'd be appropriate if we can make some decisions on it. It's just, this gives us an opportunity to look at it and talk about it.
And I'm gonna be out of town for the
And-
next
and
meeting,
Ray will
so
be
if
gone,
there was
so,
any questions or anything, if they could be
Yep.
filtered through
Yep.
Supervisor
Yeah.
Shaw just before that meeting, then we can answer them prior to me leaving, so.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions about these numbers and about what he was talking about at this point? I mean, when we had it when we sat down and talked to them, this is what we asked them to do. Look at where you can cut some costs. They had talked about Ray had talked about they could get rid of some of the concrete work inside that would save some money, but it's not gonna last as long. It's not gonna be, it just didn't make sense to us when Sarah and I talked to him to eliminate something that's gonna last longer and be a smarter investment as far as that goes.
That's the masonry that you were referring to, the
masonry, yeah.
concrete block
Yeah.
for the construction of the building, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something we can certainly look at. We might even think about pricing an alternate, because right now masonry is very expensive. It is a much longer-term life cycle item that you don't have to maintain, so I think that what we might want to do is just bid it as an alternate and get a price for, say, tiled showers versus masonry showers, and just make the decision once we get real cost again, so.
Okay. Yeah, Kyle.
Did we explore shrink, because I think it's great, but did we explore shrinking the day room down?
We, again, we made it the size it is to align with the bath, or the shower rooms. That's kind of
No,
what
yeah,
we're
that's, I
doing.
guess I would call that
Yeah.
horizontally, but going out towards the water, bringing
think
that
there's-
wall in a little bit.
I think we can certainly, it would be a reasonably easy thing to do. Right now, we have it about 8 feet out. You could pull it back in. I think it would start to limit potentially some of the uses in there, but I think it's certainly an option to look at, absolutely. And that would be the easy direction to go, away from the water, just to take out 4 to 6 feet or so.
Yeah. Just eliminate like one rung of windows, pull it back. Something like that, or however it works, but just shrink it up a little bit. But other than that, I think it's a great step in the right direction.
Dave, you have?
I got a couple of questions. If you eliminated back 8 feet, you would eliminate a third of your seating approximately in your space.
Correct. Yeah, that space right
Correct?
now
So
is
you
30
really-
feet.
The use of the facility then is bathrooms and kitchen area.
Right, our compromise was, we thought by eliminating that one covered pavilion, which is not free,
I understand that.
that was going to be the way to make the savings, but you could still accommodate a certain number of people inside that day room is what we were showing, so.
Sure, sure, I understand that. The number that you gave, the 560,000, that is for the building portion?
That was the delta, the difference between the original plan and the revised plan. That's
Right.
what I was coming up with based on my numbers,
Not
yes.
including the site work?
Not including site work.
So there would be another possible
Yes.
200,
Correct.
depending on how it shakes out. Okay.
And that comes from, if I remember right, like the sidewalk along the water originally was 20 feet wide, if I
Yes.
remember the numbers, and we were talking, we could go half that, 10 feet. And there were
Just
trim
one.
bricks in between the cracks, and we're gonna eliminate that.
I just wanted to make sure I had
Yeah.
my numbers correct.
Yeah.
And again, my numbers are the best possible numbers we can put together. I don't want people to latch on too hard because we just don't, there's so many variables in our industry today. But we did really good. The estimates that we had put together for the senior center were really close. There were certain areas that we were off, but other areas that we were low, so it kind of balanced out. So I feel it's a realistic number.
Okay. Yeah, Terry?
So the building you've got down to 1.75 million, is that right? And then the site work, what does the total site work cost?
Do you remember the exact number on that? It was over 2 million, I
It
think,
was,
wasn't it?
I wanna say it was right around 2.5 as well.
Yeah.
So, and if you knock 200,000 off of that, so you got 2.2, you got $4 million here. So Eric wasn't too far off base there with a $6 million project.
Well, I think our 6 million we talked about included replacing ADOT, didn't it?
Did it?
I don't
Well, that's another million,
remember.
isn't it?
I honestly don't remember if that did or not. I don't remember if it did or not.
That would make a big difference. If that is in fact, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
Well, I just remember talking. with our-
Oh, the 6 million we were gonna borrow?
Yeah.
You're talking,
you
yeah,
talked
that
about
included
borrowing.
ADOT.
That
That included
ADOT.
ADOT. That included the money for ADOT.
Then-
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you were
Yeah.
saying, but yes, that included the money for ADOT.
So another
So-
quick question on the, you said the FEMA made you raise the level, or did that make you raise it more than what we had planned to raise it, or not?
It does, actually.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, we'll need to raise it a little higher than we had proposed.
Really?
Yeah, it's about a foot
So
more.
that's another $500,000.
Really, we can do it with steps and ramps and just raise the physical building up. So the site work around it doesn't necessarily have to come up, just the building. So we just have to be above the floodplain elevation with the lowest finished floor of the building.
And like Ray said, they just changed that April 19th. FEMA did.
Yeah. I happen to have multiple projects that were affected, so that's why I'm so familiar with it. But it was, yeah, in this area, at the bottom of the bay, it actually was a lot less than as you go north, so. It was 4 feet in some areas, and I don't know what it changed exactly here, but it was at least a foot change.
More questions for Ray at this point? So we'll make sure this is available to you guys, just so you know. So, thank you. Appreciate it. Dave, did you have something?
The only other thing, it would be nice to see a diagram from Ken or a cost analysis from Ken that's in writing. So what are you proposing to cut to get that $200,000 off? So it makes, I think it'll make it a lot easier so we understand exactly
Yep.
what's going on.
Right.
Hard paper's a whole lot better than our imagination.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, next month, or next meeting that we look at this, it'll be an action item. and
Yes,
if
I
you
can actually
certainly
take
get
this
all that
layout
to
now,
us.
drop it on
If
the
you
site,
would,
and see how it looks
Yeah.
on the site.
Yeah, that'd be
Absolutely.
great.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on to item 9, old business, we don't have any. New business, 10A Timberley Water Update. Ken? Again, this isn't an action item this evening, this is just kind of an update from Ken, because I think we still need a few numbers.
We do. So the update is that we did meet with Garfield Township, DPW and Eagle, just to try to clarify, make sure our options that we discussed at the last meeting are viable. And those options were utilizing used local tanks in good condition to replace the tank that does not currently meet Eagle regulations and rules on site right now. So it's a very positive meeting. The one thing that still needs to come forth is the salvage cost of the tanks. We have not gotten that yet. That needs to come from Garfield Township. They need to tell us what they're looking for cost-wise for their tanks. But otherwise, my update was in the packet for everybody. Like I say, it's, from everyone's perspective, it is an improvement. It's not It's not the ideal improvement from Eagle's standpoint, but given it's such a small water system, doing a full gravity elevated tank to serve that system versus a hydropneumatic, it's such a large expense that it's not realistic for a system that size. So as soon as we get the numbers from Garfield Township, I'll put those into a cost estimate and give that to you guys for your review. So we can see how much the salvage cost is, how much a building would be, everything put together, just as an estimate to see what kind of size project we're looking at. That'll also help us decide, is it a smart move to buy the used tanks? You know, if it's a pretty high cost for them, you know, maybe it's better to go new tanks and know what we're getting for certain. One thing with the used tanks, if the salvage cost does look reasonable and we want to move forward with that, we need to get them inspected. A certified tank inspector comes in, does their inspection. From that, any repairs need to be made or identified. So it doesn't need to be recertified, it just needs inspection from a certified inspector.
Okay. Dave? Yeah.
Since Eagle has moved back and forth a little bit on what they're requiring from us and what they will allow us to do we have any sense of how long they're going to allow this system without wanting to go to above-ground system? Say, is this like a 5-year thing, 10-year thing? I mean, I know what their rules kind of are, but it seems to be a moving target for us.
Sure does.
So,
Is there any indication on water, the numbers? I mean, we have like less than 200 people, 200 residents, so, I mean, are we gonna be able to get away with this for 10 years?
the feeling is that as long as the system is operating and viable, they're not going to force you to change it. So that's the feeling I get from them. They certainly will always recommend the best solution, but they understand it takes money to get to that solution. So I haven't gotten any indication that they would say after so many years they'd force you to change. It's a permitted system. We're replacing it with permitted system, so it should be able to live out its life as it should.
So you guys, we did get a couple public comments from people up there that, you know, referenced fixing it with the most expensive option. They were in favor of that. I don't know that they knew what the most expensive option was, you know. So again, this isn't an action item this evening, so I had a thought about that. You know, a couple of years ago, I had a meeting and invited everybody that are using the system up there to come and see what's going on. I would be willing to do that again if you guys think that that's appropriate. It's been a couple of years. I could get them all, you know, invite them all, just let them tell me what they think, see how they feel about it, what their opinions are. If you want me to, I can do that. You know, clearly there's at least a couple of people up there that are willing to spend the money, but I'm guessing there would be a lot of pushback from people getting a $200 a month water bill. And that's what it would take to do.
Water bill
Yeah,
would be.
I mean, that's what it'd take to do above
these other
ground.
options.
Yeah, so I'm happy to do that if you guys think that that would be appropriate, at least to kind of get their feedback. And again, communication, what Jody was talking about earlier, you know, at least if I communicate with them about it and giving them an opportunity to give their opinions, you know, happy to do that. So I don't want to do it if you guys don't think I should. So I'm just putting it out there.
I think it's a good idea.
I do as well, but in short term, that water tank pressure system would be at 5-6 years out. We've got to do
Right.
a lot of things.
Right.
So we still need to move forward with this.
Yep. Agree.
But I think it's a good idea to have a discussion with them, because
Okay.
I certainly think that area is going to start developing.
Yeah.
Land isn't getting any more available.
Right, okay.
I think it would be a good idea, maybe if Dawn, the.
Utilities, financial solutions.
Yes, if she was Well, at least maybe written up, write up a report, because I know the one public comment questioned grants and things, but
Right.
we're not, the median income does not
We
qualify
can't.
us for grants. The other thing that qualified, one, system for grants, they jacked up their monthly rates to like $100 a month,
Mhm.
so that somehow qualified them
Right,
to get money because it was so expensive. And I don't think people wanna see that either,
right.
so.
Okay, well, I'll see, maybe you can make it to that meeting, Ken, to help me out.
Yeah.
And I'll call Dawn, see if she would even be willing to attend that, to give them an idea of rates. If not, maybe she could write something up for us.
It'd also be interesting to have Ken maybe put together a dream figure of what a tower would cost for that size, because speculating.
Right.
And I'm for some type of permanent system there, but ultimately, everybody's got to pay to get
Right.
that, and that's a big expense.
Right,
That's a
okay,
huge expense.
yeah, okay. Well, I'll try to put together a meeting and see if I can make it, get Ken here and, maybe even Dawn to kind of give them, or at least give us numbers,
Yeah,
so
and
we can
she-
share with them.
Yeah, and she, with her spreadsheets, she can plug in some numbers on the fly as questions are asked
Okay.
and see what the effect would be.
Okay. Any questions for Ken before we let him go on to the next item that he's covering? Okay, thanks, Ken. So next item is Brewery Creek parking lot update.
All right, well, it actually took quite a while, but we finally got our Eagle permit
Yeah.
to do the work out there. So the project, it's drawn, it's permitted, the contract documents are put together. So basically, it's essentially ready to go out for bids. Just basically, we need to put notes from the permit and dates, and we could put this out to bid. So just as an update, the project, our last estimate for total project cost is $463,000 to do what was proposed as cleaning out the stormwater basins, making the site more trailer-friendly versus just a single car parking, and doing a paving overlay of the entire boat storage area. It's certainly not the ideal fix, but the ideal fix was well over $1 million to put a engineered parking lot that should last 50 years in there. It's just very expensive because of the soils and the nature of the site.
And that blight elimination grant was
57,000?
57,000, so that comes off from that total,
Yep, and that would
So-
help with removal of some of the curbs
right?
to make it more trailer friendly. We do have to remove some of the lights that are in some of the curbed islands that would get removed.
Right,
And then also would remove there's one foundation on the west side of the site
Mhm.
that would get removed. And that would be paid for by the blight elimination grant.
right. And speaking of that, that was the area that TART was potentially interested in, and I did send Chris Cushman an email last week. And they're still potentially interested, they're looking at another site as well. So he said he would get back with us as they move forward, so we can't plan on them during this process, is what I'm saying. So we just need to get this done, and then if they decide they want to somehow participate back there, we can work that out.
I would like to just kind of mention that there is a flowing well right there on that property on the west side that will flow outside of the casing if it's moved around. So
Okay, that is artesian.
it's an artesian.
Okay,
Yeah.
So be careful.
yeah.
That's in that area that TART was interested
That's
in,
yeah,
so
but
that's,
if you
that's
just
not part
rub
of,
that, then
right,
You really have a problem trying to seal a casing. It's,
Right.
Yeah.
okay.
If we move into a bidding phase now, we try to get this out just as quickly as we could, because the season it's gonna end quick. By the time you get bids, get a contractor on board and started and do the work, we'd be pushing the end of the paving season. So if we did want to go out for bids, we'd certainly try to get it in this year. If something came up where we didn't get bites, contractors are still busy. So I don't know that it's guaranteed we'd get multiple bids. But if something did come up, we could do some of the work this fall and perhaps wrap it up in the spring. We certainly have to work with the blight elimination grant if that was the case. So we're pushing the end of the season, but I think it's still worthwhile to chase it.
Okay. Any questions about it? So I guess we need a motion to have them put it out to bid if that's what we want to do.
I'll make the motion to have our engineers at Wade Trim to put out the project to bid for the Elmwood Township Brewery Creek parking area.
Support.
We have a motion and support. More discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Fire station repairs and maintenance. Chief?
Hello again. Submitted a memo to y'all about some of the issues we've been having at the fire station. The biggest pressing one has been water appears to be leaking from the showers. Well, not as it appear, it is leaking from the shower stalls and out into the hallways and into through the wall, under the wall, and out into the hallways and into some of the carpet areas. That's weren't really sure what was happening earlier this year. We noticed some water in the hallway, kind of confused, and like it was intermittent. And then we've definitely noticed some of the tile break, the grout in the tile around the base of the shower stalls where the showers go into like a changing area that had been breaking away. And we had it evaluated, and it's failing, and they're not really sure how well the waterproofing is. So, but we are clearly getting water out of both the men's showers. There's two men's showers and one women's shower are leaking out into the hallway. So I asked Lieutenant Sokolnicki to investigate it, get some contractors out to really put an eyeball on it and find out what we were dealing with. And out of the list, as you have in your packet, only one of us gave a real quote. Some looked at it, said they weren't going to touch it, and we had one guy come back and say that he would come out and evaluate it because maybe it isn't the waterproofing, but it might be some other leak in the wall, but he hasn't been back out. So anyways, the quote that did come in to repair was for full replacement, basically, of the 3 showers, and it was substantial. And we had budgeted some money to also deal with some other things in the station, one of them being the station alerting system, which when our pagers go off, when we get a call from our dispatch center, there are speakers within the station and horns in the station that go off and let us know there's something going on and try to pay attention. Well, the speakers they're like something that came out of the old Norris school back in the day, and with a lot of bodies moving around and you're hustling and you're moving chairs and you're opening and closing doors, the speaker quality is bad enough, and then you're moving around, you can't really get good clarity. So there's that, and on top of it, we've reconfigured the station for full-time employment, and there's areas of the station where you just don't get notification. And not just is there a call, but what is the dispatcher saying over the speaker? So there's been concern, and it's something that we've wanted to address for a while, so we had hoped to address that this year. But, the cost of the showers, investigating that and seeing where that takes us, and dealing with that station alerting system is going to put us over what we had budgeted this year for some building improvements. So I'm coming at you hoping to get some money moved around to give us enough money that once we get into this, that we have the ability to act. We'll go ahead and push for the 3 quotes on the showers, and hit that guy up for a little bit further evaluation, but once we get a price tag on it and an understanding of what we're dealing with, we have the ability to go ahead and not have to come back and ask, well, the quotes say this now, or the quotes say that, and that we could move ahead with some of the other projects, with opportunity here to deal with it. So, I'm available for questions. I'm sure there might be
Questions for
one
the
or two.
chief about this? Anybody? It's stuff that has to be done, for sure.
Yeah.
What do we do if we go ahead and repair the showers, since it's both in them? It sounds like it's pretty much all your showers.
There's one other shower in there that's it's in our decon room, hazardous materials. That one rarely gets used. It's basically the deluge shower for chemical spills and stuff, and it rarely gets used. So we haven't ever seen any issues with that one, but the other ones, I don't know, when they pull those showers apart and they make they do work, if they have to if they have to demo those showers completely, which it seems like they're gonna have to do anyways, even if it's a plumbing issue, that we'll have to wait and see what's behind that wall.
Well, are you still gonna be able to function without?
Without the showers?
facilities? Yeah, the showers.
Yeah, I would hope that they would do it in a stepped process. You know, either work on the men's showers, and we have at least the women's shower and the hazmat shower, and then switch over how that would work. But we have essentially 3 different rooms with showers in them that we could rotate around. So,
Anything else?
I don't know that we should go cheap on the showers here if we're already replacing tile showers some
Exactly.
20 years later.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't want to say anything.
Well, and that was part of our discussion when Sarah and I were talking to Ray about those showers. I hate to go with something that's gonna fall apart and we're gonna have to fix. So, anyway. All right, so what do we need? Do we need a motion for your quote, chief, for the showers, or just the budget amendment, and you're gonna handle that?
I think a budget management would be fine to move some money over into that building improvements where I can, where I have a larger pot to pull
Okay.
money out of to deal with this and some of the other projects.
Okay.
I'd hate to keep kicking the can down the road here with some of this other stuff as well.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
We only got one bid on the showers, but the guy may show up or not.
Yeah, he was supposed to show up he said he would try to get out this past week, and he didn't make it. We had a couple of guys come in that gave us some good conversation about the showers. And like the one guy that wasn't gonna touch it, he seemed like he really knew his stuff, but it just wasn't, the project wasn't gonna be in his ballpark. And then, so we have a feeling that we're going down the right path. And the only company, though, that did produce the quote was the Talcraft there. And, you know, we'll continue to press for 2 more quotes per policy, so.
Okay.
Do we know what the issue is? I mean, if we're just covering up this without knowing, it could be a plumbing issue and,
That's the unknown right now.
Right.
So we're real kind of looking forward to that guy getting out this past week and doing some tests to see if it was a plumbing issue or whether the drain's not sealed or there's something in the wall. So I'm gonna continue to go down that path and have him investigate, because I don't wanna fix a shower if it's a plumbing
Right.
issue and that, but I would like to have some funds available when it's time to move forward. And if it's gonna end up being all 3 showers, the coincidence, oddly, is all 3 showers are causing an issue, so I'm not really sure what's going on there. The women's shower, there's an issue with, when it was designed, you have the shower stall and changing room in front of it, and when they built the building and installed the shower head, it points right out through the opening in the door. So they have have to have the curtain there, and we had to go get like this little containment dam, little foam thing that sticks on the floor to keep the water in, and I don't know why they put the shower head on that wall, so I'd likely, it should have been, you know, on the 90 degrees to that, but, so when anytime water leaves that space, it leaks out into the hallway, soaks into the carpet, and you're like walking in a little swamp out in the hallway. So,
Alrighty. So moving on to budget amendments then.
Yeah, I
Next
don't
item.
think you can make the motion to limit it to a certain amount yet, because
Right, we
we
don't know.
don't know if there's gonna be a plumbing issue, so, yeah, if we move on to the budget amendment, I'll kind of talk
Okay,
about the other
perfect.
items on it.
Yep. Yep, item D, budget amendment.
you want me to remain here? Or?
Yeah, please, for just a minute, chief.
All right, the first one, professional services, legal, that was boosted quite a bit by, our union contract negotiations. And we've had a few other, there's the zoning enforcement issue up on Lakeview Road that's taking a little extra as well, so that is the increase there of 14,000, and then tax tribunal refunds. I think this is the first one I've seen in many, many years, so we haven't been putting anything in the budget for that for probably 15 years, so that's the 2,500, that's a refund that we had to issue. Our insurance went up a little more than expected, so that's the extra 2,000. And then the last one is for the fire department, the 20,000.
Okay.
And these would all just come from the fund balance of the general fund or the fire fund.
Anybody have questions for Connie about that? Okay. So we need a motion.
I'll make the motion to adopt Resolution 13 of 2023, a budget amendment resolution.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Questions or comments on this?
Do we get reimbursed by anybody else for the tax tribunal refunds?
That's just our portion.
Oh, that's just our
Oh,
portion?
no, ask Chris, sorry.
Tax tribunal is when somebody goes in and asks for their money to be reduced by the taxable value. So this has been one, like Connie said, in I don't know how many years. We do get reimbursed by the PRE reimbursements, if they get people who are in violation of using their PRE and they're not, this isn't their primary residence, we get money for that as well. We just got $560-some just for July. So, it just depends. So,
And I think are you referring to like the other entities affected, like the county and this?
Yeah, I guess that was my question, because so much of the money we take in, like virtually all of it leaves the township. So I didn't know if we were, this person came in and we said, hey, we lowered our value, your taxes were over by $2,500, and we cut them the check. Is the state on the hook? Is the county on the hook?
well, the county is the one that initiates the refund. And
Okay.
then they charge us for our portion of what the refund is
so
for.
this is-
So the township allocation, the admin fees, and the fire fund are ones we would have to reimburse back to the county, because the county is the one refunding the actual taxpayer.
Okay, so this is only our little piece of
Mhm.
the larger.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Okay.
And I think the fact that it's been however many years is a good reflection on how good a job Barbara Jones does, our assessor.
Yes.
I mean, for sure.
So does this reflect one taxpayer or multiple taxpayers that were successful at the tax tribunal?
I believe this one was a situation where it was a qualified forest that asked to be out of the qualified forest. So they have to go back and do their adjustments for not being in that program any longer. So I believe that's what that refund is for.
Any other questions on that? Roll call vote, please, Connie.
I'll vote yes. Jordan Gallagher?
Yes.
Dave Darda?
Yes.
Kyle Travis?
Yes.
Terry Lautner?
Yes.
Chris Mikowski?
Yes.
Jeff Shaw?
Yes. Thank you. Marina winter storage rates, south parking lot. Thanks, chief. Pete?
Good evening.
Pete, nice to see you. I'm glad you're doing.
Thank you, and I just want to add, I appreciate all the thoughts and prayers and nice cards from the boaters and from this board. Great support. Stanley and I have really felt it and appreciate it much. I'm doing good. Good, not great. I'm on my way back. Doc says nothing permanent, and I'm on medication that keeps things from going bad. So far, so good. So, appreciate it. Yeah, our current rate structure, as far as I know, my first hiring, I came to work for Elmwood Township in 2005. And I think our rate in 2005 was $1.60 a square foot for winter storage, and it hasn't really changed. We did have other things that changed, came and went. The day sailing feature that we used to charge $600 a year to park a sailboat in the parking lot, that left. Ironically, or surprisingly, I should say, we did make a few calls to some local places that store boats, and we weren't really out of line even by today's numbers for what we charge currently at $1.60. This is not exhaustive, but a local company was $1.55 a square foot for outside storage, 2022 rates. Grand Bay hadn't announced their rates yet. They were still considering them, and others were indoor rates, which were quite a bit higher, heated. What we offer, I think mostly is for people without trailers. They've got cradles, they've got jack stands, they're called. A cradled boat can be moved, but it takes two vehicles, so they not only pay for their winter storage with us, but they pay two other companies to bring the cradle in, and then the crane service will lift the boat out of the water, set it on the cradle, and then that transport will take it out into our parking lot. And so when you think about your winter rate or winter storage rates, you do have to consider that we're not a full service marina. We're just renting them square feet to set a boat for the season of winter, of which otherwise it stays empty, and it's a good revenue point for the marina and for the township. We have another type that has to be placed on the wall, and that one is there's very little of that available. Quite simply, in fact, as needed as boat slips are in the Grand Traverse Bay, especially West Arm, so is the type of storage that we offer, which is wall storage. And we had the north end of the marina beefed up with heavy-duty asphalt and things when we redid that end of the parking lot. And that's where the boat has to be lifted with a crane or two cranes in some cases and set in place, and they can only be set as far as the crane can reach, and depending on weight and that type of thing. And so those people are pretty dependent on our storage as well. And as we go forward also, that south end, we're going to lose quite a bit of storage when we do finish this redesign, because that pretty much alleviates storing boats at all, I think, on that south end, unless there's any changes. Ken talked about reducing the sidewalk area and things like that, and there's a green space in there. We'll see what happens. That's up to you, the board, to ultimately decide. But for this year, what lays before you really is, do we raise rates for winter storage, and to what? So. And also at this point, the rates are the same whether they're on the wall or in the parking lot. So keep that in mind too.
So I know from a legal standpoint, if I remember right, as a municipality, we can't charge less than competitors. We can't do like unfair competition or something. Is that
You're not
correct?
supposed to, correct.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's a law or if it's
It's part of the Waterways Commission
Okay.
designation, because
Okay.
that's partially funded.
right. So So is there anybody more expensive than us doing it?
The only ones that
There's-
we heard were indoor rates, indoor storage rates, which can go to $3, $3.50 a square foot type of thing.
Okay.
Did we hear back from like Northport? What
No.
they're charging?
We did not hear back from them. Those are the ones I've got. I think I had one more. $1.85. I've got $1.85, I've got $1.55, and I've got $1.90. All those are commercial. Those are outdoor. So,
And we're at $1.60?
and we're at $1.60.
Okay.
$1.85 and $1.90, you said,
Yes,
and the $1.55.
yes.
Okay.
I guess, Pete, what's your, I know that the boats that are up on the wall are usually bigger boats,
Yeah.
and probably have pretty big bills, but, I mean, that seems like kind of low-hanging fruit, that's a pretty unique competitive thing that, I don't know, does anybody think that that should be, I guess I'd ask Pete, do you think that should be more expensive? Because it's a
Well-
unique, we only have so much of it,
Yeah,
let alone the rest of the bay. Only
Right.
has so much of it.
right. And as it looks right now, just laying out for this season for several boats, and keep in mind too, most of these are commercial. They're commercial sailors or I believe they're all sailboats, yeah. And we've been approached to store the Discovery boat this year too. And we're working that out, whether we can even fit it in. So, on one hand, I think fair and equitable is always kind of the attitude, especially as a municipality, like Eric brought up, we are a municipality where, our goal at the marina is to get as many people on the bay as safely as possible and pay the bills at the end of the day at the same time. But then, so storage-wise, I would kind of defer to you folks as far as the need for the revenue, the size. Obviously, like you said, Kyle, these are big boats, so they are writing a pretty good sized check. For instance, last year, Naughty Cat included an additional covering, which they want to do the other side of their boat. It worked out good for us and for them last year. They paid extra for the square footage. I don't, I think we're in that place. Should we raise rates? Well, we haven't raised rates that I can ever remember. And so we probably are due, is what I'd say. And that type of storage is unique. On the one hand, if you're on the wall, it's easier, you can store massed up. You don't have to trailer it away, which is an extremely expensive endeavor. If they can even be done, a big boat like Naughty Cat has to be disassembled to go down the road, so that type of thing. So, and then the rest of it is really up to the board, because we are a unique setup. I don't know, I know that they've stored Naughty Cat as far away as Mackinac City. I don't know what I don't know if they're on the state dock up there or that big pier, but and that's again, I think just mere dates. Everything else has gone up substantially in the marina, and I don't want to go up substantially for no apparent reason, but we're definitely due for an increase.
Do you know off the top of your head where $1.85 and $1.90 were?
Yes, I do.
Just out of curiosity.
I do. That was Mobile Marine, $8.85, $1.90 was Premier.
So let's say maybe I'm off on this, but I think on square footage, a 30-foot boat, the 10-foot beam would be 300 square feet. If we went from $1.60 to $1.90, you're looking at a $90 increase for a 30-foot boat. That's back of the envelope, rough math. And that's probably one of the smaller sized boats that actually stores in there as a 30-footer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we do have a minimum. We charge a minimum of $400 currently. So whatever size, if you had a 20-foot boat by, 20 by 7-foot beam, you'd pay $400.
Did you contact Harbor West Yacht Services?
I don't see it on the list. I had my deputy do it while I was off.
Because I know he's way over that.
Yeah.
I mean, way over that.
I personally, when last I really shopped this stuff, we were far and away the cheapest, but the problem is we don't have any of the services. So then it becomes, how do you really, you're not exactly measuring apples and oranges.
But you still have the same overhead. Elmwood provides power, parking, and all kinds of different things, cleanup and those kinds of things that a regular boatyard provides. So there is some cost to the township other than just the square footage. It is, nothing's for nothing, that's for sure. So you only called, really, basically, you called really the places that don't do much outside storage.
Well,
I'm not sure exactly who all you called, but I'm assuming that to be true because a couple of them that you mentioned really don't do much outside storage. They do trailerable boats and they do them inside. So,
Yeah, I think pretty much everybody you listed is not really doing what we do, or like Harbor West, or like Northport does, because all those places, I would imagine, have the cheapest rates, because all you gotta do, they're just taking trailered-in boats. I mean, like,
That's-
Grand Bay Marine, like, if you go behind there, they have like a derelict boat yard, like a lot of other
Yeah.
places where, I don't know how they all collected back there, but they got a bunch of boats behind their building.
but they make their money in even shrink wrapping.
Yeah.
They store a boat in 14-foot area, they charge as much for shrink wrapping as they do storage. So that's why I was questioning who all the people
Yeah.
you called. Because I think it's like $250 a square foot for outside at Harbor West.
I wouldn't doubt that. And I don't think there's a massive difference between a Harbor West discharging and what Northport charges.
No, it would be real similar, I'm sure.
So I know my thought is, it's just nobody wants us to run around and raise rates, but we're raising rates everywhere else because we need money. I would think maybe we go to 190. It's not I guess the thing that also I look at is it not fun? But $100 on your overall winter storage, not the end of the world either. And I guess to the point is, we've pretty much been raising rates everywhere else.
I would agree with that. I think that would be reasonable, especially for a step. I mean, this is another one of these things that we have to look at more often, instead of letting it go 10 or 15 years.
Do we need to find out what Northport and Harbor West are doing?
It would make sense to me.
I mean, because we don't have to do this, I mean,
This minute.
we have enough time, we could do it next month if we need to. I mean, I know we're pushing it, we're pushing the end, but I think it'd be good to know what Northport and Harbor West are, just because they're really similar to us.
And there's other facilities around that do a similar situation.
And I guess
there's Elk Rapids and other places.
the question which gets tricky is how are they doing it?
Right.
In their billing, because if I recall, and I could be very wrong about this, Dave probably knows better than me, because I think like Northport, like their rate included a little bit more. So their rate was always a lot higher, but like some of the included parts of that were there. So then it becomes like, okay, what's all included in that flat rate? Because like we include nothing.
right.
We include ground.
And it works good with us as the operators, because what we've done is we put parameters on the haulers and the cranes and make sure you're insured and make sure, everything's there. And then we're not we're not down there with hard hats and directing as much as we're saying, here's your spot, place it here, and then the professional boat haulers are dealing with all of that. And the same thing like Harbor West or Northport, they've got their full service. So obviously there's a lot going on there, where with us, we're just saying, here's your 10 by 40.
Yeah.
And
No,
that's it.
and I definitely recall, I mean, Northport has add-on fees. It was never just this fee, but I think the different companies structure, hey, what's included in our fee and what's not included in our fee, and then what's an add-on and what isn't an add-on, not everybody's billing. There again, it's not exactly an apples and oranges thing,
Right.
having dealt with some of the.
Right.
It would be good to have an idea for people or facilities that are similar to what we're doing as far as charging for space for some of the bigger units that are not moving away from the shoreline.
I'd be very interested in that, because I wouldn't be surprised if we were just giving
The other
that
thing-
basically away,
The other thing
comparatively.
that- Yeah, we actually are. But the other thing that's of an interest is before we were charging more for commercial vessels, and somehow we've gotten away from that. And I'm not exactly sure what the reasoning for that was, but even bumping the wall was more for commercial than it was for a non-commercial.
Okay. So,
So it sounds like you might want it to come back next month with more information.
So you want Northport, Harbor West?
yeah, any others that you're off the top of your head, Dave?
I would go as far as Elk Rapids, Keewaydin, in some areas there. I mean, because that's a very similar, what happens is people will move from place to place. That 50 miles is really nothing.
Okay.
So.
I know one of our boat haulers charged a guy $650 to haul a boat from here to Elk Rapids.
Yeah, absolutely. You mean for storage, yeah.
That was just
Yeah.
the hauling.
I mean, they do the same thing when they haul up to Jumps Corners.
Mm-hmm.
It's $400 or $500.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
How many boats can you store in the water?
We don't store any in the
You
water.
don't store any in the water?
Right. They're all out. Yeah.
Well, except for that abandoned one a few
Yeah,
years ago.
it floated up to the,
And it's a good
Boat
idea that we don't do controlling or hands-on with the staff down there.
yeah, for sure.
liability purposes and those kinds of things.
Mhm.
Yep,
So does a good job with that.
yep. Was there more about the south parking lot you wanted to talk about, Peter?
No, other than just keep in mind, and we will be losing revenue when we do this final phase. I plan to fill it this season. Engineers told me that we won't be building down there before the end of this season, so that puts us, everything has to be off the wall by the 7th of May, so.
That's a matter of planning.
Right.
As long
Yeah.
as those people
Right.
know that's gonna happen, they can move out into the parking lot.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay.
we'll get you those rates on those
Thank you.
other three, yeah.
And item F, ADOC repairs and reskinning. You got the stuff from Flotation Systems?
Everybody get a chance to look at those two bids.
Yep.
The finger piers in description here are, they've kind of lost their ability to hold rigidly to the head pier. ADOC is showing its age, and these are finger piers that are at the opening of the harbor where that south winds and wave come in and really work that dock. In fact, that's why in 2017, we put $170,000 into replacing 70 feet of head pier, if you remember. And these two finger piers in discussion here they're definitely wobbly, so when you walk on it, it's gonna, you gotta have your good footing. So I spoke with Cody Carmichael up at Flotation Dock, and he gave us those two options. One is to reskin it, which the wood is old, so it's 20 94, so it'll be 30 years old next season. The average life expectancy of our docks is 25 years. Anything you get beyond that is good, right? So we do a lot of repairs. We replace boards regularly. The womanization process of the wood is not what it used to be. It used to come dark green and soaking wet. Today it turns white within a week of putting it down. It doesn't have the durability of the old process. That said, I'm still doing more board replacement on C dock that was put in 2009 than I am in A dock that was put in 1994. So we do have to do something with those two. The question is, do you want to reskin them, replace them? Now, if we replace, there will be 2 less finger piers that need to be replaced when the whole dock gets replaced. Same thing with that stretch that we put in at the end of A dock. A dock is unique too, as you know, because we have those pilings. There's pilings at every point down that dock, and the board back when in 94, whoever was on the board decided through the engineer's advice that you can't anchor a dock. So they put these massive pilings in all the way up and down A dock, and I asked Mr. Carmichael about that, and he laughed. He said, hey, heaven and hell will pass away, but this dock will still be here. So there's these big pilings. They're 55 feet below the water line. They're cement-filled steel, so they will be there forever. So as we replace that dock, even if we wanted to change companies, change design, we'd have to either remove those or build exactly what we have, which I think doing what we have is probably going to be the cheapest way when we do A dock. So that dock, those finger piers, their bottoms are gone. If you recall the description, I don't know if you remember, but they're put together like a box. They build the box. They put the deck on the top. Then they put an entire coating of galvanized steel. It's nailed every 1.5 inches. Then there's styrofoam put on top of that. And then there's a finish on the bottom. Again, every 1.5 inches is nailed through galvanized steel. So it promotes rigidity, the flotation, and everything. When the bottom comes off, like most of A dock is losing its bottom, and these finger piers have lost their bottom. If you go by A dock from the water, you will see at the T dock, which is the end piece facing the fairway that goes through there, you'll see the galvanized metal hanging under there. All right, so there's no real repair to that. It's just symbolic of, hey, it's coming. And it won't just all of a sudden fail and people end up falling in the water. It's just the first sign. Deterioration will include eventually the styrofoam balls start to float up and wash up on the shore, that type of thing. And but with the finger piers, they're narrower, so they're more susceptible to the change. You'll see that in Mr. Carmichael's letter here. If it were up to me, I would personally, I'd put the new ones in and be done with it so that they can stay for the next process. If we just repair them from, meaning they're gonna take them out, they're gonna take them up, it's labor intense, they're gonna flip them over on the ramp, they'll pull all the metal off the bottom, do an inspection, and put the new metal on, float it back out, and reattach. They talk about things like electrical. There is no electrical on those or anything like that. It's just a matter of detaching them, floating them over. My staff would do things like get them ready as far as having everything off that the boaters would have on them, like storage boxes and things like that. So on the one hand, we're at $9,000 to $10,000, and this is from June. And on the other hand, it's $17,600 for total replacement, with another $2,100 if we have them destroy or dispose of the remnants. So, and that we'll be seeing more of this as time goes on. These are two docks that are doing it now, So if you walk down those docks, they're quite wobbly.
So you guys have questions for Pete?
And I think this is, when he's explaining the reskinning, he says here, that said, it's appropriate to mention that many new commercial floating dock structures fail to provide a level of stability that matches even our wounded decades-old units. Do you know, is he basically like just trashing other dock systems, or is he saying if we buy a dock system from him, it's not gonna be as stable as a dock?
Maybe a little of each.
A little of each?
Um,
Okay.
He knows that we're getting ready, you know, we'll be investigating replacement. I think one of the things he points out is that the metal is more dependable now than it was in '94. That maybe the galvanization is better or something along that line, like it'll hold up better, less rust.
Okay.
I do agree with him that these docks they're phenomenal. I mean, they got a lot of weight tugging on them, all those boats, and when the wind picked up last week, 60-mile-an-hour gusts, everything holds in place. I mean, they go through a lot.
Because I guess personally, his answer to that question, is your old dock better than the dock I'm gonna sell you new, makes me wonder, should we be repairing our old dock, and should we be long-term looking at repairing our old dock versus buying a new dock? Because if what we got's better than anything we can buy new,
I don't think he's telling,
I'm
well,
not sure.
I don't think that's
wood-wise,
what he's saying.
I'd want to be,
Okay.
yeah, I think the quality of the materials in his steel is better.
There's
His
certainly a
metal.
difference in quality in treated lumber. But it's better quality, the pan materials and the membrane materials that they use, and the styrofoam is much better. But what Peter's saying is once a dock starts to fatigue, it starts twisting and it starts rocking. And then even the fasteners at the main part of the dock are worn out. So everything's wiggly as you're going out there. And when they lose the pan on the bottom of a dock, I've had dozens of these apart, that pan has access to all of the styrofoam and everything else. So you'll see styrofoam pieces even floating in a marina once in a while. And that's because the docks are deteriorating or that's exposed. The guts of the dock are exposed.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what's going on. He's saying on one hand, you have better materials for the pans, but yet the wood is not as good as it used to be. And that goes along with what Pete was saying about the treated lumber. You put new treated lumber on the dock and it changes colors right away. They're not able to use arsenics and other products that really treated it, where now it's a superficial treating. They're treating redwood instead of real pine.
So if you got the replacement dock, could you use them on the new dock, when you put the new dock in?
I think that's what he said.
Yeah,
Yes.
Bolt them on then?
Yep.
Yes.
yeah.
So why don't we just get the new replacement option then?
Okay. I have a couple of questions about even well, I think it's a good idea to replace with new fingers. But I do have a question on the old fingers. Instead of the disposal of those, I wonder if we couldn't have them reskinned and use them in another portion of the marina, like off the north wall. And have a couple of them stick straight out for like dinghy, loading, unloading, those kinds of things on the far side. Or even dinghy use on the south side by the creek.
The only thing is, they wouldn't even float unless we were
Well, you'd have to
100 feet
reskin
out,
them.
yeah.
You'd have to reskin
But I
them.
mean, as far as float, it is so shallow, now in front of the park, believe it or not, I mean,
Repaired, dredged.
it's down, way down.
Well, if we do the seawall down there with the new marina.
I don't know if they're
Yeah,
dredging
they
that.
were supposed to, where's Ken? Oh,
He's gone.
they were supposed to extend that wall repair,
They're gonna run that,
an extension down there.
yeah, but I don't think they're gonna dredge or anything, just
Okay,
just hammer and pilings.
yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of changes back and forth, so it's hard to remember.
So you're thinking of putting it south of the creek? That
Well,
dock?
just by the creek, towards the stone walls. because we were looking for dinghy docks at some point or one point.
Don't we
And they
have like
don't
a,
float, they don't use much water. They don't float very deep. And the worst of it is if the front side of it went aground, it wouldn't make any difference. It'll just rest there until the water comes back up.
Well, we could certainly find out if that's a option, you know?
But reskinning and disposal gets to be a little expensive. But at the very end, because of the
Should have
wind
new
and
ones.
the channel and the wave action, that really should have new
Yeah.
piers.
I would say.
Okay.
So it's money well spent if you're gonna do something, do it right.
Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts about it?
well, I guess just, as we're talking about the wood and stuff, and I don't know, to make a bunch of work for you guys, like, they're gonna tear all these apart, and we're gonna just dump into a dumpster. Is there any chance we could go through and pick good lumber for,
It's
to
pretty
save?
worn.
Is it pretty worn? There's not
It's-
much to save?
Yeah, it's 29 years, never been stained or treated, so
Okay.
the grain is split and it's very tindery, very brittle. If we run a screw through, it just splits open and it's
Okay.
old.
So that's
If
another,
you wanna see some, I can show them to you.
no.
I mean, seriously, I mean, that's the best way to get knowledge of what's going on is, I mean, I know where a couple of open carcasses are.
Got
And
a
actually,
few
Elmwood's
sections.
done well.
We've done very well.
I mean, very well, because the first docks, like at Bowers Harbor, those docks have been replaced pretty close to maybe 10 years ago now. And they were put in approximately the same time Elmwood's were. And they pulled out their docks every year.
Mhm.
They actually pulled them out. So we've done well with them in
I think
that.
so.
That inner basin works out well.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I guess we need a motion if we want to do the new. Sounds like, at least,
That's what I do. I'd make a motion, we authorize the replacement option. And if you wanna look into the disposal option, alternatives to that, that'd be okay too.
Support.
we have a motion and support. Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thanks,
Okay.
Pete.
Yep,
Appreciate it.
just a final quick, as we do go forward with our finishing our marina off, I really look forward to having that done and finished and the boaters' enjoyment. And I do want to encourage the boaters to be patient. Has been quite a ride. We are constantly bombarded with ideas. I was asked just this Saturday if the township would consider putting a swimming pool where the buildings currently are. And that's from one of our boaters who pays rent at the slips and everything. So please bear with us as we finish this off. It's going to be a great project and it's going to be gorgeous for years and your kids and everybody to enjoy for years to come. Thanks.
Thank you, Pete. Moving on to 10G, MDOT TAP grant resolution. So I reached out to TART, I reached out to East Bay because I know East Bay has facilities, sidewalks that MDOT put in that then East Bay was, had to take over maintenance of. So I reached out to them. And Beth Friend was quite embarrassed that they don't actually have a written agreement. So, but basically, I had her send me a copy of their ordinance, their sidewalk ordinance, just to let you guys know. So in East Bay, they have those sidewalks closed, so they don't have to plow them or anything like that. So this is for the M22 portion of MDOT's project. So I did reach out to TART, and I didn't hear back from Julie in time, because that's gonna be considered a leg of TART up to Cherry Bend. So Connie and I have talked about this, as a township, we could say, you know what, we're not gonna plow them, we're not gonna pay for that, they're closed. But if TART wanted to, if they wanted to do it, like they do the city portion between, Tom's and Carter Road, then I think we would have the opportunity to say, yes, at that point, we want you guys to maintain it. This is more for moving forward if there are repairs in the future of that part. MDOT's basically saying that's gonna be up to the township, not us. And that's a standard thing. And this all came about because this TAP grant that they're applying for, they have to have this resolution in place. So they're hoping to get a whole bunch of money for that project because they're a few million short at this point. So they're applying for this TAP grant for the 2025 season. And then if we decide to go ahead and try to get sidewalks on Cherry Bend, there's a TAP grant we're gonna apply for it with Leelanau County Road Commission for the 2026 construction season. So, that's what this is all about, this TAP grant resolution, or TAP project resolution, so. And as you can see in here, they agree to pay all matching funds and all that kind of stuff. MDOT does. Basically, this is very similar to this resolution that we had with Leelanau County Road Commission for Cherry Bend, basically saying they're on our property, but we're agreeing to have them apply for the money for our property. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 14 of 2023.
Support. We have a motion and support. Any other questions or anything on that? Roll. Oh, go
So
ahead.
after the sidewalks are built, we can, as a township, say they're
Yes.
closed?
Yep. That's what East
after
Bay
the
did.
first snow falls?
Yep. That's what East Bay did.
Okay.
East Bay also has an agreement with TART for some of the trail that they plow it for them. But that's something we can decide as a board if we wanna have them do that or not. And if we say we're gonna close them and TART wants to plow them at their expense, great. So. Any other thoughts? Roll call vote, please, Connie.
Kyle Travis,
Yes.
Terry Lautner,
Yes.
Chris Makowski,
Yes.
Dave Darga,
Yes.
Jordan Gallagher,
Yes.
I'll vote yes, and Jeff Shaw.
Yes, thank you. Security cameras for the township hall, so you guys remember we hired a grant writer to help us out with some of these things. He is in the process of applying to the park plan grant for up to $5,000 for security upgrades for us. And he wanted us as a board to pick out which of these 3 camera quotes that we would like, so he can include that in the grant. So you can see there's 3 different quotes here. I did send an email to Brett Byrnes from TKS a few days ago, and he just responded today, explaining the difference between the 2 monitoring programs, if you want to call it that. So,
The cost of the monitoring?
yeah, that's included in the quote. So, and the total cost of the TKS quote is for the township hall and the pavilion. I had each of them give us a quote for security cameras in the pavilion because we've had some vandalism issues. A couple of years ago, we had a lot of them down at the park, the playground, and somebody spray painted in the pavilion down here last year. And then the side benefit of that would be we could also, when people rent the pavilion, like a couple of weeks ago, somebody put a hot pan on those green picnic tables. They're rubber coated and melted a ring in the, I don't know that we would want to do anything about it, or maybe we would, maybe not give them back their deposit if we had that ability to actually see it with the security cameras. So there would be a benefit to having it. I didn't know if you guys would want to do security cameras at the pavilion, but as long as they were here, I figured I'd have them give them a quote. Each of these quotes, you can back that out. So. All three of them were real professional when they got here. TKS is the cheapest, I think, if I remember right, for everything. And the cameras would have really good coverage. I think we included that last, yeah, on the very last page of that one, it shows the total coverage of the cameras. So,
This one doesn't show good coverage.
yeah, so that was the original one that he gave me, and I said, so is that the total coverage? And then he sent me that to say, this is actually what the total coverage is. He was just showing where the cameras were angled originally, so. So, yeah, this is the actual total coverage.
So are these on the tape that you?
So these are all, yeah, I mean, it's digital, so you can access it from the computer to go back and look at, and you can keep it for however long you want it stored, yeah. 2 weeks, 30 days, 45 days, however you wanna do it, so.
Because, and I have some passing, I've watched a bit of video footage. The breadth of what you get with these things is just so far. I get it all the time. Some of these are like amazing and they're great, and it's like what you would see on TV. Other stuff, you might as well not even have them.
Right.
You know, so that's why I appreciate the coverage, but then I also am wondering like how good
Detailed.
are we getting? Because if we're gonna get them, we should at least get ones that, if we need them, they're doing
Right.
something.
So we have them down at the park down there, so what is the quality of the video off of those?
The ones at the recycling center are amazing. So there's been twice that the police have contacted me. I've met them down there, and we've been able to identify cars going by.
Right.
Like when the lady dropped off all the cats
Yeah.
at Cherry Bend, we actually identified her car. And then there was a kid a couple of weeks ago that the DNR found a whole bunch of trash that was dumped out in Fife Lake. And the kid's grandparents' address was on one of them, and he said that he dropped the stuff off at the Elmwood Township Recycling Center. So they called me, and we looked, and were able to identify his truck with the, so all that to say, the cameras down there are amazing. Pete, how are the cameras down?
They're good.
I mean, so this situation, I don't think we were looking at identifying license plate numbers here. That's what we wanted at the recycling center, so, because the county wanted to be able to write tickets for people that left stuff. But here, I think it would be more just facial recognition kind of stuff.
Well, but that's,
So-
if you wanna.
No, I understand what you're saying.
If you can
I
read
do.
a license plate, you can read someone standing in front of the door's face.
Sure.
If you can't read a license plate,
No, I get
You're
it.
not gonna
good
recognize
luck
it.
figuring
Right.
who that person
Right.
is standing at
If
the
you don't buy
door.
good quality, you're just wasting your time.
Right.
And to Kyle's comment earlier, some of the ones that you can't recognize, they're there as a deterrent, just so people think there's a camera working.
Sure.
You know, and they might as well be a plastic camera.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's, you guys all plug your ears. That's what we have down at the
Hey,
pavilion
hey,
right now.
hey.
So,
You think we don't know?
yeah, no, I think everybody does, you know. So, these all seem to be pretty comparable
Yeah.
from what I could tell. EPS is the one that has it down at the recycling center. He's been great to work with. Those are great.
That's who I would suggest we go with.
What's the price difference there?
It'd be nice if it was broke out in the columns.
Yeah. So he's 7,300, but that was just for the township hall. And then he was cheaper for no, I take that back. It's 3950,
Yeah, he's,
so he's quite a bit more.
For both of them, he's
Yeah,
quite a bit more.
yeah.
So he's 3,900 just for the pavilion? Oh, but he's got he's got 4 cameras on the pavilion.
Yeah,
Most of the other guys are just doing one.
right,
That's
So-
kind of the biggest thing is coverage is
right,
a huge thing. So if you have 4 cameras compared to 1,
right,
that's an amazing amount of coverage.
yeah.
Well, cause I mean, he's more than,
Yeah, if you look at the layout, it's pretty amazing.
yeah, he's using more cameras.
Yeah,
so,
for
like,
sure.
Substantially than everybody else on both.
Right,
And he's catching every direction at every corner.
yeah.
How much do we think we can get from power plant? 5?
5, up to 5. Yeah.
And do we think we can get that?
Well, what we have going in our favor is we've never, at least it's been years since we ever got anything from them. I think we did long
Like we
before
got
I was
something.
here.
I think we
Seems like we
get
got
the,
something from him once.
Yeah,
it was the security cameras, I think, for the marina, or not
Okay.
the marina,
The
the Harbor
park?
Park Pavilion.
okay. So that was 2010. So the fact that we haven't done anything with them for all these years, gives us because there's other municipalities that apply every year.
'Cause,
So
I mean-
it does say they take that into consideration too.
You know, he is more, but
What is his total, the
he,
EPS?
EPS is,
I couldn't
he's
find
79 for, or 73 for the building, and then he's fairly pricey for the pavilion. He's almost 39.5. But if you look at his diagram,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's got way more coverage.
He's
TKS is 4 cameras and then 1 on the pavilion. He is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cameras on the offices, and then
Yep.
4 on the pavilion. So like, per camera, he's really almost cheaper.
Right. He is cheaper.
I still think that is the way to go.
EPS.
If you're gonna do it, you need to do it with a system that's going to be,
Right. And like I said, dealing with him, he's been great.
Yeah.
When I've dealt with him down there. He came in and trained Dwayne a couple of times.
it's nothing worse than being robbed and you don't have a camera
Yeah.
in that area.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Because the Axion one, which is more expensive, and they have not as many as EPS, but substantially more.
yeah,
They're much closer to him on camera level.
Right.
Correct.
okay.
Yeah, they're 7 and 2 at the pavilion. He's 8 and 4 at the pavilion. These guys are 4 and 1.
Right, right. Okay.
So I'd make a motion that we accept the bid.
Included in the grant
Award the bid.
request, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, yeah, if we choose one, then he'll include that in the bid for us.
Doing the grant?
Yeah.
That's
I'm
what-
sorry, if we
that's-
choose a bid, he'll include it in the grant
Right.
application. Sorry.
That's what this is all about,
Yeah,
picking a unit
yep,
that we wanna go for,
yep.
not choosing, I mean, we're not installing them at this point.
I would, for grant application purposes, make a motion to pick EPS.
Support.
Okay, motion support. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Last thing is the memorandum of understanding. So the city did this more out of courtesy than anything else. We have an agreement with the city based on the amount of flow that each of us townships have that go through different parts of the system. They have to replace this sewer main. It's gonna be $2,316,250. Based on our percent, we're gonna end up having to pay the city, what did I say, 18,000 something a year for 20 years. They could have just sent us a bill, quite frankly. I mean, we really don't have a choice on this.
Do we have to take any action on it?
Yeah, the Board of Public Works, they brought it to Board of Public Works this past Thursday. The board there voted to forward it to the Township Board for approval of the memorandum of understanding. So yeah, we just need to have a motion that,
I'd make a motion, we approve the memorandum of understanding between the city and us. Because support?
okay, we have a motion and support.
Maybe authorize the supervisor to sign it.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. Any other,
Does that have a number?
It's not a resolution.
yeah. it's just a
Well,
memorandum.
it's kind of interesting that they don't have it
Yeah,
numbered,
yeah,
recognizable down the road, because you could do any memorandum.
right.
You know.
Well, they had one, so
I'm good with it.
okay, we share the same line with Garfield. So ours is 16%, theirs is the remaining, so their payments were significantly
I'd
more.
like to
It
make
was a-
sure there's a copy of this and goes along with it, you know, so we know exactly what this memorandum.
Right,
is.
I have it,
You do?
actually. I have
Okay,
the
good.
Garfield one as well.
Good.
So, any other,
I'd just like to comment that if we can just pay it and save any interest,
Right.
I think we should just pay the full amount. We had that figured into our
yep,
But-
sewer, our utility rate,
yep, Dawn
Well,
had that figured in,
That's
so.
absolutely great, yeah.
yeah.
yeah. So
And
if we
I-
look into that.
Depending on what is the interest rate? that they're
1.875, it's pretty cheap.
charging? That's pretty,
But-
that's, what are we getting in recovery rate
Five.
now? Five?
Boy, now we're getting,
So we're making money now if
We
you,
are,
instead of
so-
paying it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
wouldn't
we'll
pay
have
it.
to-
I wouldn't pay it for a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah, yeah, we're making 5% or so,
3.5%.
yeah.
started
Last I
making
true.
checked, it was
15 grand.
5.25,
Yeah, it'd be
5.25.
3.5%.
Yeah.
but it fluctuates.
Yeah.
So money's money.
All right, any other discussion about that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you, you guys. Item 11, payment of invoices.
I'll make a motion to pay the invoices in the amount of $72,579.83.
Court.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you. Item 12, extended public comment. It is 7:52. I would like to open public comment. Same rules apply.
You can have it.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay. You know, some places do the public comment like at the end of each section, so then you drain people out. Just a thought. Anyways, okay, here are some thoughts and questions after listening to the presentation and discussion tonight. First of all, there was a lot more discussion and suggestions thrown out on the pricing of boat storage and ways to repair the docks versus paying for a $5 million project. I would love to hear more discussion and creative ideas on a project that will forever alter the financial course of the marina and township, such as, given that the site work expense is huge because of the location of the new facility at the marina, why are we not considering using the existing location so you don't have to do the seawall? That's where all this money comes in, is that you have to raise this whole marina area up. Could an estimate be done for doing that? I don't know. Other questions. How many people will use an indoor facility? Have we asked how often the indoor facility at Clinch gets used? Now that we have lights, finally, for the outdoor space that we have, that improves the gathering space that is at an economical cost. Can't we come up with some more ideas like this? Outdoor kitchen facility with seating. Again, I think a survey of the boaters and other stakeholders that could be done quickly might provide some new data. Won't having this new facility create additional costs for cleaning and maintaining? Get this big new building, we've got to have more employees, more costs for cleaning, and then Pete mentioned a loss of revenue because we're going to eat up space with the new project. There's not going to be as much parking to create revenue from the storage. Are there other places we're going to lose revenue because of this project, and has that been considered? Shouldn't dock replacement and repair be a priority over all of this stuff for safety reasons? I know that was being discussed, and it sounds like you guys have a pretty good handle on it, but I mean, that would be my concern too. And then finally, where's the discussion about how this gets paid for? And if it involves us, when are we going to hear about it? So overall, I appreciate the presentation and, all the work you guys have to put into making decisions, but I think the plan shown today honestly lacks creativity and cost savings needed to make a major difference. And it'll still have detrimental costs to everybody involved. Here's my thing. Just because something was decided a long time ago when the marina was flush with cash doesn't mean you have to move forward with it today when it's not. I mean, I read that big report. You had tons of money back then when the decision was made. There's no money now. Do the hard work. Find a better solution. I really feel like a survey might be helpful. I would implore this board to issue a survey. It's not expensive. It's easy. I'd be happy to help with it, but Jeff and I have talked about it. I mean, it sounds like they've got people that could issue one. And then my last question, just as I exit here, is how come none of you except for Jeff have an email contact on the website? We'd like to be able to reach out to other trustees. Or Jeff, are you sharing them out? I mean, how do we communicate with the rest of the trustees? So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Ken Kleinrichard, 9549 East Harbor Hills Drive, right around the corner. I'm also your Marina Committee Chair. I was on the Marina Committee for a few years, and then got asked to be the chair this year when Ryan Matuzik left. My experience up to then was we were kind of a committee that we got to, we received information every time we came, and we saw what was going to happen, and Ryan was working really hard on the fish cleaning station and was very passionate about that. And but we've never been a committee with any teeth. There's certainly a lot of things that you could employ or implore a committee to do, and I think I'd really like to see that committee, you guys take advantage of the fact that there's some people that are real passionate about serving, and will hopefully, not quite sure how to get it in line, but I really think it needs to come from you to Jeff and Pete, and then Jeff and Pete say to that committee, here's what we need information on it. If we meet quarterly, and you ask for some information so that when Pete comes to you guys and asks for money, you know that he's done his due diligence and he's used that committee at the best of his ability to bring you all the answers. There's no reason you shouldn't have all of those answers when somebody comes to you and asks for money. That way you have it up front. But I think having the committee then work with the people in the marina, and we can expand that committee. We got a bunch of passionate people. We don't have a limit on that. But I view that committee more as a task force than really a committee. We don't have a function other than, when somebody comes to us with something. Nobody's come to us with anything and said, we want you to dive into this or dive into that. You guys are running a whole township, let alone focusing on the marina. So I'm just putting a hand out saying, hey, use us if you want to use us. And since there are a lot of things that are out there, especially the surveys, and do we go a different direction, we'll get all those. We'll at least get you that feedback so that you can make those decisions and you don't feel like you're getting bombarded by, one group at a meeting, I guess. So that's all.
Thanks, Ken. Any other public comment at this point? Seeing none, it's 7:58, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.